I'm going to try recording it. And I think we're going. So if the providers from PIP want to do their intros, that would be great. And then, whoops, we'll just kind of go from there.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm one of the PAs with Partners. I've been there about 5 years now, and have 2 little gals of my own, and we all struggle with sleep. So we're here with you tonight. So looking forward to what Sarah has to teach us.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dana McHale. I'm another one of the physician assistants at Partners in Pediatrics. I've worked there since 2003, and I have 4 kids, 2 teenagers, and then twins that are 11. So we've had many a sleepless night at our house too.
Yeah,
so
I'm sure.
Lots to talk about and learn, and we're glad that you're all here.
Good. I think that that advice from experience really does make a difference too. I'm a mom of some teenagers and older kids, so I hear you. And then who do we have another provider on?
That's me. I'm Casey. I'm one of the nurse practitioners over at Partners. I've been there for about 2 years now, and I do not have kids of my own, but have done a lot of night shifts with little babies. So have some more experience there, but looking forward to being here tonight.
Awesome. You guys, thanks so much for being here. So I just want to say at any moment, should you decide that you want to interject, feel free. I always love hearing other perspectives. And obviously you guys bring a lot to the table. So I just want to make sure, because I have kind of like this grid of people on my screen right now. Can you guys still see like the full presentation, or are you also seeing that whole grid?
I can see the presentation.
Okay. All right. Is that Magdalena? All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. So for all of our participants, I'm really going to leave a lot of time for questions. I'm going to leave at least a half an hour because I want to get to your questions. I'm going to try to just kind of pour through this information. I don't want to give you too much information overload. I know that people are here because you're tired, because your kids aren't sleeping well, because you maybe are preparing to have a baby and you're terrified because you know all you hear about is how sleepless your nights are going to be. So I just want to give some space for that. I will give some information in the end about how to book a call with me should you actually want to explore moving forward with some individual work. And I am offering a bonus for anyone who comes to me through PIP in the next month, like by the end of March, that if you do book a package, I will throw in night 1 Voxer support. And Voxer is what I use to go back and forth with my clients throughout the support. It's just a little walkie-talkie app, but that's a great bonus because sometimes people are really afraid of that first night and kind of what that's going to mean. So I do first night support until 9 p.m. For any package you book, should you book through Partners in Pediatrics. So please don't forget to let me know where you came from if that's the case. And for anyone on this call who isn't a patient at Partners in Pediatrics, I highly recommend them. And I recommend that you give them your time and investigation, because they really are a fabulous practice. My kids have gone there for many, many years, and I have lots of clients that come from the practice, and I just think they do a really great holistic approach to helping us with our kids. So we're going to get started. Hopefully everyone who's here tonight has a child or is going to have a child in about 0 to 12 months of age. Tomorrow night and Wednesday night, I'm going to be talking about older kids. Tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about toddlers who are still in, hold on, let me see if I can mute everyone. If you guys, I don't think I can mute everyone, but someone is unmuted right now. So if everyone can just, here, mute all. I'm just going to mute everyone from right now. Yes. And then you guys can unmute yourselves as needed. So tomorrow night, we're talking about like 12 months to about 3 years old in a bed. And then on Wednesday night, we're talking 3 years and on, I'm sorry, 12 months to 3 years in a crib. Sorry, please don't be in a bed that young. And then 3 years to moving on in a bed. So that's what we'll get. Oh, good. And the website to Partners in Pediatrics is now in the chat. So I just quick who I am. My name is Sarah. I'm a Colorado native. I live here in Centennial. I have 2 children, biological children of my own. I have 2 stepchildren who are grown, and I've done lots and lots of things parenting related with all these older kids. I'm also a certified lactation counselor. So that's something that I really bring in very heartily to my work with families. This is a question I get a lot. Can I have a good sleeper, a good independent sleeper, and a healthy breastfeeding relationship or a healthy bottle feeding relationship? But oftentimes people are worried about that breastfeeding relationship being interrupted by needing to sleep through the night or something like that. And I am here to tell you that those 2 things are not in conflict. In fact, often when our children start to sleep better, they start to eat better. And so that's something that we really want to do as soon as it's developmentally appropriate. We want to get them sleeping longer stretches. We can definitely do sleep training and sleep shaping while keeping in nighttime feeds. So that's something that a lot of my families that I work with these younger babies, 3 months, 4 months, even younger, we definitely keep in nighttime feeds. So it's just something I want you guys to know. I'm always paying attention to nutrition and sleep. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go to the first kind of page. So today I'm going to address a lot of your most common questions in this age group. When should we sleep train? When is it safe? Does my baby need to eat at nighttime? I mean, a lot of babies are eating at night, but the question is, does my baby need to eat at night? How do I get my baby to sleep without my help, right? This is a big one, mostly that I see with every single client who comes to me, whether you're 3 months old or 12 years old. It's usually because we're not sleeping well because we're dependent on a parent or a caregiver to help us get to sleep. How long should my baby be awake between naps? We're going to address that. Timing is important. Will my baby become a better sleeper on his or her own? Not likely, but we're going to talk about that today. And my baby was a great sleeper, but after the 4-month regression, what in the heck happened, right? So I hear this a lot. Gosh, the first couple of months, it's like we had a dream sleeper. We had a unicorn. We thought our baby was going to be an amazing sleeper. And now things are just on a steady decline, right? They're starting to wake more frequently during the night. I'm going to explain a little bit about that. Timing. So timing is really, really important. And this is something that I think is hard for new parents to really understand because we just haven't been there before, right? I mean, I sometimes joke with my client families that, we all wish that we had a manual, that our baby came with a manual. I would say that having somebody like me on your team is about as close as it gets, right? Because our providers and our doctors are able to give us great information, but we're only able to be with them for little bits of time, and they can't walk us through all of this. So timing is one of those things that takes a little bit of information. Let's start with naps. Daytime sleep is very important. It's as important tonight as night is today, right? It's a whole 24-hour cycle. So that's how I want you to think about it. I want you to think about sleep as a 24-hour process and that we're trying to space it out incrementally throughout the day. And I'm going to get on the next slide to those developmentally appropriate awake times. And that, it's very unlikely that we're going to have a baby who sleeps extremely poorly during the day and then they do great at nights and vice versa, right? With our little babies in those first 3 months, we're really working on, distinguishing between day and night, right? A lot of times we have babies that want to be awake all night and then asleep all day. So we're working with getting them good natural sunlight a couple of times a day. And this is true for all of our kids and for us as adults. That nice natural light is really important and really informative to the circadian rhythm, to that thing that we hear about called the body clock. So if you can get your baby outside even for a couple of minutes in the morning hours and also in the later evening hours, that's really helpful in helping inform that cycle. For naps in the very beginning, we're looking at probably 4 naps a day, right? We know that they need around 3 to 4 hours of daytime sleep. They're going to, we want that 10 to 12 hours of nighttime sleep, and we're going to space it out throughout the day. Sometimes with our really little newborns, we're going to do 5 naps, but it's more common that we're looking at 4, and then pretty quickly we're going to get them to 3 naps by about 3 months of age. We typically don't see our kids transfer to 2 naps until 6 to 8 months of age. And then we're usually on that 2 nap schedule until about 14 to 16 months of age, just depending on your child, when we're going to look to transfer to 1 nap. And there are all kinds of things that we look at in terms of knowing when it's time to transition. I'm going to probably say this a few times tonight. One of the best resources that I know of to learn about these things is the blog at sleeperteachers.com. So that's the company that I work for. And we have, she's our leader, and she writes an amazing blog with tons of great information. So my recommendation to you would be to follow us on Instagram at Sleeper Teachers, to go to the website, to familiarize yourself with that blog. I wrote a blog that actually we posted through Partners in Pediatrics on understanding newborn sleep. It's a great way in those first few weeks to start looking at how we're going to shape sleep. So we know that naps are going to be really dependent on timing. We're always looking at that kind of balance between overtired and undertired. I'm sure everybody who's listening tonight understands what it's like when their baby is overtired. They fight sleep. They will cry and fuss and want to be nursed and rocked and held. And honestly, it's so confusing to us because we know they're so tired. But once they've gotten into that overtired, overstimulated phase, which can look like joy and engagement and excitement, but really we know that they've gotten overstimulated and overtired, it's much harder to get them to sleep. So when we look at those awake time windows on the next slide, that's going to make a little more sense to you. Undertired. This is something that people aren't talking a lot about. Sleep pressure. So you want to think about it kind of like a cup of coffee, right? You want to let it fill up throughout the day. Or throughout that awake period, you want them to get tired enough that then when they take the nap or when they sleep at night, they have enough in there to take a full drink, to really empty it out. So if we're doing these little tiny cat naps all throughout the day, every half an hour, we're kind of up, we're feeding, playing a little bit, then they're snoozing on this constant cycle, what we're never doing is giving the body enough time to really get tired. So that's something that I really want you to be thinking about. Like, what's the timing in your family? What's the timing for your child? Are you hitting these awake times right? Or are you going too long or too little between sleep periods? Sleep need at that 0 to 3 month, according to National Sleep Foundation, is about 14 to 17 hours in a 24-hour period. So our littles need tons and tons of sleep. I don't know about you, but my little daughter, when she was a newborn, she just never liked to sleep. Like, she would stay awake for hours and hours and hours. I didn't know that I should be putting her down, every 45 minutes or every 60 minutes based on what her age was. If I had known that, I think I would have done a lot better, but that was a long time ago. And then 4 to 12 months, we want about 12 to 15 hours in a 24-hour period. We want to be kind of on the high end of that, but each child is going to show us kind of their own particular pattern. And then I'll just say early morning, early to bed. Don't be afraid to put your little ones into bed early, right? So we're typically hitting bedtimes between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. With our young babies, it can be a little bit later, kind of that 8 to 9 p.m. up until about probably 2.5, 3 months. They might have kind of that internal rhythm that shows us they want a later bedtime. But don't be afraid of that early bedtime. I wouldn't go earlier than 6, but if you've had a kind of a cruddy nap day and you know that they're tired, there's no point in keeping them up late. If you hear anything tonight, please hear. Keeping your child up later will not help them sleep in later, and it will not help them sleep better. An overtired child has a hard time falling asleep in the beginning, is more likely to wake in the earlier parts of the evening, is likely to wake throughout the night, and is more likely to wake up early in the morning. So overtiredness never helps us. It makes it harder for them to go to sleep. I'm going to go on to the next thing here. 6 weeks. Okay, 45 minutes, you guys. With a 6-week-old baby, they really can only sustain 45 minutes of awake time. I mean, that's short, right? So if we're looking at, if you, let's say that you are breastfeeding or bottle feeding, we're looking at about 20 minutes for a feed, right? Assuming that the latch is good, that there isn't a tongue tie, that there isn't something else going on, that they're able to transfer milk well. We're looking at about a 20-minute feed. So this is a baby who at 6 weeks wakes up. We're going to do a diaper change. We're going to bring them to a nice bright space. We're going to do a nice big full feed. And then we're going to do tummy time. We're going to play. We're going to practice rolling. We're going to get them moving. We're going to spend a few minutes outside. And then we're already, I would say set the timer, because honestly, it goes so quickly. We're already at that time when we want to start getting them into the swaddle, getting them ready for that nap. And then you're going to go ahead and try putting them down. So I want you to notice that I didn't say we're going to feed them again and then put them down. So we know when our babies are young like this, that they need to be fed when they wake up. We've got this short little awake period, and then we're going to do a nap. It might be a 45-minute or hour-long nap. And so then we've got about 2 to 3 hours in between feeds, and that's looking good for their little bodies, right? We know at 8 weeks, we're going to be awake for about 60 minutes. 10 weeks, 75, and 12 weeks, 90 minutes. So we're moving. I have rapid change at the top of the screen because we're moving quickly, right? During these first 12 months of age, it's like boom, boom, boom. We're almost always in a transition. Developmentally, they're all, they're starting to roll. They're working on crawling. We really have a lot of things starting to happen in the body. And with sleep, it's just the same, right? So we do have those kind of small awake periods when they're younger. And then at 3 to 6 months, we're really going to start stretching them, right? From that 2 to 3 hours of awake time, because between 6 to 8 months, we're going to look at transitioning them to 2 naps. They're going to start showing us that they don't want that 3rd nap, right? I mean, how many people, I wish I could see you raise your hands in this room, have that, 6-month-old baby who does nap 1 well, does nap 2 well, nap 3, they're like in the crib, they're crying, they're fussing, they don't want to go down. And then you're like, oh my gosh, now we have this monstrous awake period before bedtime tonight. What are we going to do, right? So we need to start stretching their stamina and their ability to handle that kind of awake time. 7 to 12 months, we're about 3 to 3.5 hours, depending on how many naps they're taking. And overall daytime sleep. In the beginning, we're looking at 3 to 4 hours. And then I would say from about 3 months on, we start to look at about 3 hours of overall daytime sleep. So if you've got a baby that's doing 5 hours of daytime sleep, I just worked with a family recently. Their 3-month-old was doing like 6 to 7 hours of daytime sleep. No wonder the night was bad, right? Because it was so much sleep during the day that baby was sleeping much more like a itty bitty newborn. And so we really had to work to kind of change that body clock. But we did it, and she's sleeping through the night now, and her naps are good. And there's some pretty amazing things that happen once you start really paying attention. Encourage independent sleep. So this is probably the number one reason that people come to me. And it's probably the number one reason that you guys are on this call tonight. Like, yes, we all know this. Our babies should be able to be put down wide, wide awake. I'm going to say that again. Wide, wide awake. Many of us are living with this misconception that it's okay to put our babies down drowsy. Drowsy is stage 1 sleep. Your baby is already on that journey down into sleep. And so what happens is you think you've put them down awake. Well, look at that. They've gone to sleep. And then an hour and a half or 3 hours or 45 minutes later, wah, 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 you hear from your baby, because what happens is that they are using your help to get to sleep in the first place. And then when they move between sleep cycles naturally, which we all do all throughout the night, instead of coming up to those lighter levels of sleep and then putting themselves right back down, they're coming up and then they're looking for you. They're coming all the way to full awake. We are seeing fragmented sleep. We're seeing a lot of parent involvement. We hear one peep out of our baby and we're running in there. We're picking them up. We're holding them. We're rocking them. We're nursing them. And we're in the cycle now all night long. And really that's because they didn't get themselves to sleep in the first place. So if that's something that you want to change, I know a lot of parents are afraid to change it because we're afraid of the crying. We're afraid that that means that they're just going to lay there for hours and hours and hours and cry. But what I would encourage you to do from the beginning, if possible, so if we've got some people on this call who have younger babies, I would encourage you to practice, right? So here's an awake period. Your baby wakes up in the morning. You do a nice big full feed, change the diaper, do a big feed, do your developmentally appropriate wake time. And then you're going to get them ready for sleep. So if it's in a swaddle because your baby is not showing signs of rolling, or if it's in a sleep sack and your baby is showing signs of rolling, we can no longer keep them in the swaddle. If they're showing any signs of rolling, it's not safe for them. So that's really important. And I have a lot of families that come to me and their babies are already starting to roll and their arms are still in, and we've just got to get them out. So I know it's scary. Take an arm out, risk them kind of flailing around a little bit, but once we see that, we've got to start to get those arms out. And there's some transition swaddles and different things you can do at that time. But start doing the bedtime routine or the nap time routine and getting them into either their swaddle or their sleep sack, making the room really dark, getting the white noise machine on, and then we're going to put them wide awake into the crib or bassinet on their back. And we're going to see what they do, right? I mean, a lot of times a baby is going to cry because it's different than what they've experienced before. And I would encourage each of you to ask your providers, to ask your doctors at Partners in Pediatrics, like, how do you feel about this? Can I let my baby cry for a few minutes? And I guarantee you, everyone is going to say yes. It's okay. Babies cry. This is one of the things that they do. I am not a proponent of just leaving your baby in the crib, walking away and closing the door. It's not necessary. We can stay involved. But what I would do is I would practice, right? So you've got your baby on their back. They're, you know that they've been fed, you know that they have a dry diaper, you know that they are already they're in their sleep sanctuary, and then you're going to give them a few minutes and you can stay in the room. And then you can use a little bit of voice and you can use a little bit of touch, careful touch for a minute, right? Just letting them know I'm still here, I'm with you. And then I would say step away, give them a few more minutes to practice and work on giving them an opportunity to try. Because we know that for learning independent sleep strategies, independent sleep skills, babies have to have a little time to try to figure it out, right? They need some space. If we're in there picking them up, rocking them, trying to nurse them again, trying to feed them again, then they have no time to really even establish whether or not they can do it. And I can tell you that every baby can do it. Every child can do this on their own, right? But they need guidance, like how we would guide them in every other way. We teach them to do math. We teach them to ride bikes. We teach them to do all of these things. We also need to teach them to sleep. So that's kind of the process that we work with. When I work with families, and I can tell you every single day I speak with families who are really concerned about the crying, and that after we work together, they're like, oh my gosh, this was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. A. B, I wish I had done this sooner, right? Because it was really no big deal. And now my baby's getting the sleep that they need. I'm getting the sleep I need. And my baby's eating better. My baby's in a better mood, right? I mean, there are a lot of great things that happen to our bodies from increased sleep. We all know, right? Immune system building, memory consolidation, cardiovascular function. I mean, the list goes on and on. So I really think it's worth it if you're willing to put in kind of some of the time and effort. That's where I would start, right? The sleep props, it's super important. So people ask me, is white noise a sleep prop? No, it's not. I would just use plain old white noise, like sounds like a shower. We want it about the volume of a shower. It helps block out that ambient noise and helps create that patterning in the brain that this is when I'm sleeping, right? They hear that sound, they're in the dark room, they're in their swaddle or their sleep sack, and they know I'm on the journey into sleep. Dark room. People ask me this also. Is a dark room a sleep prop? Are you sure I shouldn't try to make my baby learn how to sleep in the light? No. Okay, and by the way, I'm going to go to the questions in the chat. So if you guys have them, I'll go to those first when I'm done teaching, and then and I'll answer all your questions there. So dark room. is not a sleep prop. It's something that we really, really need to be doing to avoid those early morning wakings, especially with the time change coming up, and also for nap times. Because at night we have dark on our side, we have melatonin on our side, right? Darkness helps us produce the melatonin. We have sleep pressure at night built up. So we're going to be great in those first hours of the night, assuming we're doing independent sleep, right? And then it gets to those early morning hours, and it's easy to get disturbed by a trash truck or a coffee machine popping on or a light in the hallway. Darker is better. Trust me on this one. And also, I would argue, darkness is something that you can create when you travel. You can do it with plastic trash bags and painter's tape. There are all kinds of things on the market. I'll get to that in another slide, that you can really create a dark space. Pacifier, AAP recommends them for those first 6 months that we at least try them. And some families have success with them, some don't. My recommendation, once you get kind of to a certain age, usually past those first few weeks, is that to use the pacifier at sleep onset. And I'd love to hear the provider's thoughts on this as well, if you have other thoughts on it. I like it at sleep onset. And then if the pacifier falls out, I wouldn't keep going in and putting it back into their mouth, because then we've got a sleep prop dependency. Then we've got your involvement all throughout the night, all throughout the nap, trying to save the nap. And it's something that ultimately doesn't help with their independent sleep skills. So that's how I like to approach the pacifier. Food and sleep, we've already talked about that. I mean, definitely, I get this question a lot about, and I'd also love to hear from the providers on this, about weight, and like when it's appropriate to sleep train. So I think it's appropriate to do sleep shaping from day one, right? There are so many proactive things we can do to make it so that we don't have to sleep train later. But if you've already gotten past that point and you've got a, 4-month-old, 5-month-old, 10-month-old, 2-year-old, 5-year-old, that didn't learn independent sleep skills, it's definitely not too late. I work with kids all the way up to age 12 who have this sleep prop dependence. But oh my gosh, I just lost my train of thought. I was just talking about age. Oh, yes. So when we're going to do sleep training, and that's working on more kind of, I would say a little more intentionally working on those independent sleep skills. When I work with a family, it's 2 weeks of support. We can keep a nighttime feed in, and, usually I would say babies by about 14 weeks and usually 13 to 15 pounds are ready to wean out those nighttime feeds. And we can also keep in a feed, and then we can kind of watch the baby's rhythm. Babies will often wean that feed later and later and later into those morning hours, and they'll wean them on their own. I'm actually working with a 12-week-old right now who has, and she's actually kind of little, but we've been keeping in the feeds at night. But what she's done is she's weaned them out. And we've been working with the pediatrician, and we've been working safely, but her sleep skills have started to get so good that she just doesn't wake to eat during the night. And what we've seen, which is awesome, is that her daytime feeds have become much more robust. Instead of doing tiny little snacks throughout the day and tiny little snacks throughout the night, she's now doing nice, big, full, complete feeds at least 5 times during the day at her age, right? So we're always going to look at, what's developmentally appropriate. But food and sleep, we want to start disconnecting those as quickly as we can. And of course, I'm a huge proponent of feeding our babies always, but it doesn't necessarily need to happen at night. So I just talked about when to start. And let's see, routines. I'll just talk about this real quickly, but it's great to right now establish a routine. Make it 20, no longer than 30 minutes for bedtime. I love keeping the feed outside of the routine. So a lot of families do the feed last because they want to get their baby kind of drowsy or asleep and then into the crib. So a great way to break that pattern is to do that feed first. In a nice bright room, making sure they get lots of food. If your baby takes a bottle, whether it's breast milk or formula, that's a great time of day to do a bottle, because our breast milk supply is at its lowest at the end of the day. It's at its highest at the beginning of the day. It's a great time to pump actually after that morning feed, because usually there's some residual milk. So I like to do that feed first and then a 20 to 30 minute routine, make it exactly the same every single night. It's the same song. It's the same, you know, if you can handle it, the same book. It's the same sleep sack. It's the same routine. It's the same time that you put on the white noise machine. It's the same time that you draw the blinds, so that we're getting that established routine of that journey into sleep. It really does make a difference. Nap time, 5 to 10 minutes. We really don't want to drag this out, right? Sometimes we see bedtime routine going on. And what happens is our babies just kind of lose track, right? So it's really important to establish that. Dark is best. I already talked about this a little bit, but I have this darkness scale, and 10 is best. If you can do 10, I would highly recommend it. I love a room to be so dark that you cannot see your hand in front of your face. It's a fabulous sleep environment for them. If you want to think of it like that sleep sanctuary, when we're sleeping, that's what we're focused on doing. A really bright room is really going to work against you. If you're seeing short naps, or you're seeing early morning wake ups, the very first place I would look is the room, the dark room. Light and the time change. Yeah. So we're looking at this time change coming up, and and I'm going to give you some recommendations on that in a minute. But one of the things that we get like an onslaught of calls that happen 2 weeks from now, because people were like, what's going on? My baby is waking up so early. My toddler is waking up so early. It's usually because of light, honestly. Darker the better. These are some solutions. This Blackout Easy, Grow Company has one called Grow Anywhere. Pillow Fort at Target. Home Depot has those pleated paper ones that you can just stick up inside of your window frame. So those are some of the ones that I recommend. I really think it's worth it. And then how to handle the time change. So at this age, 0 to 12 months, we're really not going to do much. We're just going to continue to follow those awake times. So you might have a few days where things are a little bit different. It's a little bit harder on us, but actually you might see that your baby starts to sleep later because that morning hour is springing forward. So your baby that used to wake up at 6 every morning is now going to be waking up at 7. But what you're going to do when your baby wakes up at 7 is you're just going to adjust based on the awake time. So if you've got a 90-minute awake time, you're just going to go with napping every 90 minutes from the last time they woke up, and then doing that bedtime somewhere between 6 and 8, based off of the awake times. I really wouldn't do any other kind of a structure. They're too little at this age to do like structured schedules where they always sleep at this time and this time. Those of you who are in a 2-nap schedule, you're seeing more of that, right? You're seeing that they start to fall into a little bit more of a standard pattern. And if that's the case, I would say to follow kind of recommendation number 2 on the blog. So the best thing to do, because there's math involved and it's not my forte, and every one of you is going to be a little bit different, is read the blog. It's on our website, sleeperteachers.com. It's the most recent one that was on there. Brittany, if you want to follow us on Sleeper Teachers, she's putting out information every day right now on Instagram, and lots of great tips on how to handle it. But mostly I would say follow those wake windows. And then if, at the end of this, if you guys are like, hold on, our family just needs help. Like, I can't do this alone. I know I'm in a cave in. I've got all this information and I don't really know which direction to head. Just book a call with me. We'll talk about it. And if my support is right for you, great, we'll move forward with it. There are options out there, right? I hate for families to just go on and on for years and years. I was just looking at a Facebook group today at City Park Moms, and a mom was talking about some real struggles that she's having with her 9-month-old. And there were so many recommendations in there. It surprised me that, like, it's okay. This is normal. We also pulled our baby into our bed around this time. Our baby's 2 years old. They're still in bed with us. That's okay. You know what? That's fine if it's working for you. But if it's not working for you, and if you don't like being up many times a night, and if you are frustrated by how much time you spend every day working on naps, it's okay. Like, I really feel like we need to give ourselves permission to get some support around this, because life is already hard, and it's much, much harder when we're so exhausted that we cannot even function. So that's my spiel. I hope that these were some good little tips. I know I was speaking quickly, but hopefully everybody got a little bit of information. And now I'm going to go to questions. So actually, I'm going to pause for a second and see if any of the providers, if anybody wants to pop in and speak to any of the things I was kind of talking about, or if anyone has anything that you want to add, and then we'll go right into those questions. No additions. Okay. No addition. Oh, yeah. Here comes Dana.
I'm trying. I'm not as technologically challenged here. Sarah, thank you so much for all the great advice, and just for sleeper teachers in general for helping so many of our families at Partners in Pediatrics. I think some of the points that I always include too are that the good daytime sleep equals the good nighttime sleep. Like, they're not separate. You have to think of it all, especially in this age range. Also, that it's never too young to start thinking about working on their sleep, and that the training, I probably do the training. I think you said, can we weigh in? Probably tell families around 4 or 5 months the same thing, or that 13.5 pounds. And I think part of that is by 4 months, I feel like that nap schedule really starts to kind of solidify, instead of linking a little bit more to that eat, play, sleep kind of schedule. So I totally agreed with that. I think you asked our opinion on a couple of those things.
Yeah, thank you for adding that. I mean, I think it's really important, because I really do have people quite often, 7, 8, 9, 10 months of age, ask me like, do you think it's too soon? Should I wait a little bit longer? I mean, what we see a lot, and I love that 4-month moment, right? Because the sleep regression happens then. And for people who don't understand what that is, when they're born, we have really only 2 kind of types of sleep. And then at 4 months, it becomes more complex. We add in a couple different levels, and they actually tend to have a little bit more of that lighter sleep. So we're much more likely to be woken or interrupted in our sleep than we were initially. So that term, like sleeping like a baby, that's really pre-4 months, right? And after that, we start to look at a lot of other things, like where we're like, babies actually don't sleep that well, kind of naturally on their own. But yeah, I would agree with that. And so we do work with quite a few newborn families, and I do hybrid programs where I do a few weeks of just starting to work on some skill acquisition. We don't do long periods of crying. We don't do, we're just kind of practicing. And then towards the end of our time together, we do start working in a little bit more structure, but that's usually that 3 to 4 month kind of mark. So Dana, thanks so much for adding that in. I think it's really important. And then Casey and Steph, did either of you have anything to kind of throw in? And if not, I'll just start answering questions.
No, I think that you did a nice job. Thanks, Sarah, for that. And Dana, I agree. I think, somewhere between 4 and 6 months, I tend to start encouraging that. I think a lot of times encourage the getting into more of a routine. I think that's a lot of times when parents start asking. And if we're being really honest, I allowed my younger one to go many more months than that before starting the sleep teaching, because for me, it was, it was survival at the time and it was easier, but frankly, I would have done it much sooner, or sometimes wish I would have. And I think it, may have helped, sorry about my video, may have helped longer term with some of our sleep things that we went through to start earlier. Cause I do think it's easier to start that process earlier than to wait longer, before you start some of those things. So
yeah,
the earlier you can do it, the better.
I would agree, definitely. I mean, it is easier earlier on, that is for sure, because the habits aren't as solidified, right? When I'm working with my 2-year-olds and my 3-year-olds, it's like, there's a lot more pushback, right? Because they have deeply established habits of dependence. And, I will say also, like, my kids are teenagers, our son, I mean, I went through 9 months personally of nursing him every 2 hours around the clock, because I just didn't know. And I was like almost dead by the end. Like, who can even live like that? I don't even understand how I made it through, but yeah. So of course I wish I had done this sooner. The day our daughter turned 3 months old, I found the program actually that I'm certified through, but that was 13 years ago. And literally the day she turned 3 months old, we just did it. And 3 nights later, she slept 12 hours and that was that. So
Awesome.
all is well. Okay, you guys, I'm going to answer some questions here. Let's see. Should we sleep train for daytime naps even when they are overtired? Wouldn't they continue to be overtired if they don't sleep on their own? So that's an interesting question. I think when I'm working with a family, we always start with nights because we have a lot more on our side. Like I said earlier, with nights, we have melatonin, we have greater sleep pressure, we have the darkness, we have the fact that our bodies are built to really sleep at night. So I will, if we're having really troubled daytime sleep, I will usually begin with nighttime sleep. And then I'll say to continue with your kind of poor sleep habits during the day, just to get some some amounts of sleep during the developmentally appropriate times of day that child needs it. So whether it's, and I never want it to be in like a rock and play, or some of the different recliners that have been recalled. So I do find that people are sometimes in not safe sleep spaces, and sometimes they're not always keeping their eyes on them. But whether it is like in the stroller or in the car or being held or being worn, especially with our younger babies, yeah, keep doing that if that's the thing that's going to get them some good amounts of daytime sleep. And then start with nighttime sleep, start practicing on that skill acquisition at night, because we have a better chance of success with that. And then I say, let's start choosing a nap each day to practice with. So usually it's the first nap of the day, because that's when they tend to be kind of the most tired and they tend to sleep the best. So then we'll kind of start in with one nap. And then as we start to see that acquisition building, which usually progresses quite quickly, we can start working with more daytime sleep. But no, I would not just say like, just cold turkey, start working on naps. That would be kind of a recipe for disaster. So I'm very glad that you asked that. And hopefully that answered your question. So if you have more, go ahead and type it back in and I'll try to get to it in the end. Next question is, my child has a tendency to hysterically cry when I try to leave her alone, even if I am near her and touching her. Any suggestions? So my first question would be timing. Are you sure you're timing it right? Because, well, and also, let's see, Marta, do you think you could unmute yourself and maybe we could talk? Because I have a couple of quick questions.
Hello.
Hi. So how old?
She's 6.5 months, and it's not just me. So it's anybody who's trying to put her down.
Okay.
She has a tendency to hysterically cry. She has FOMO, is the best way I can put it. Fear of missing out, and she is terrified of falling asleep.
Okay. So what do you do typically to get her to sleep? Do you feed her? Do you rock her? Do you hold her? What are you doing all this time to get her down?
Rock her, play music. My mom rocks her and plays music. I walk up and down the stairs. My husband walks around the house. Everybody has a different method.
Yeah. So this is a tough one, right? Because the thing that I'm going to tell you is not the thing that you want to hear, and that is that we need to let her do a little bit of crying, right? So, and I hate that hysterical crying, right? I mean, it's not like anybody likes it, and we don't, but we know that a little bit of controlled crying while you stay involved is not going to be ultimately harmful to them. It's not like you're just letting her go for 5 hours, right? I mean, she wouldn't go that long anyway, but what I don't like for parents to do is to let them cry for 20 minutes and then pick them up and do the thing anyway. So, people will say to me, we've already tried crying it out, or I've already tried letting them cry. And then when we start to dig in a little bit, what I find out is that, yeah, one night they let them cry for 20 minutes, sometimes even a half an hour. And then they picked them up and they nursed them to sleep, or they rocked them to sleep, or they wore them to sleep. And in that case, I would just rather you didn't even try. If you know that you're not going to let them go all the way until they actually fall asleep, then what you're doing is teaching them to cry. Because they're very smart, and they start to quickly know, like, the longer I go, the better chance it is I will be picked up, or I will be rocked, or I will be nursed, or, all the things. So, I mean, I know that that's very hard, and it's hard to give you like because when I work with a family, it's like a whole program. I look at the whole 24 hours, and there are different techniques and things that we use along the way. But, the short answer is, or the shortish answer, because I'm never very short-winded, is that there probably needs to be a little bit of giving her a little bit more space, right? So what would it be like for you, Marta, to do all the things, to put her down awake? Oh wait, is it a girl? Do you have a girl or?
The girl.
Or to what would it be like to do all the things, make sure she's fed, make sure she's, in her sleep sack, the room is all perfect, and that you put her down wide awake. And then if you were to stay there, and what if you gave her 3 minutes to cry, or 5 minutes? I mean, what do you think your kind of threshold might be?
So far, the longest I've ever let her cry, holding her, she was crying. So when she gets into hysterics, we can't calm her down.
Okay.
So I think that lasted an hour and a half.
And what did you do during that hour and a half?
Held her, walked with her, tried everything we could to calm her down. And that's the problem. She gets into the hysterics, and then we can't calm her down because she's overtired, and it's just.
And that was gonna be my next question. I would, when I'm working with a family, I always want to make sure that last nap of the day on the night when we're going to begin has happened at an appropriate space. So we want to make sure that she's rested going into that night if you can, right? So, we know that, what is her common awake period right now?
She wakes up around 9:30, 10, and then first nap is around 11, and then 4 o'clock, and then 7 o'clock, and usually she goes to bed at 10.
Okay, wait. She's waking up at 9:30 or 10 in the morning?
Yeah.
I'm going to recommend you book a call. Honestly, what you just told me, there's a lot going on, and I think it's way too much for me to answer right now in the Q&A. But these are the kinds of things we work with, because we know that 10 p.m. is way too late of a bedtime for her. And what I'm hearing is that there are some timing issues throughout the day, and it sounds like you could use some support in really knowing with confidence that what you're doing is a trusted method, and that what you're doing is going to work, and it's ultimately not going to harm her. Because I think it would be crazy for you guys right now. There's no way you're going to feel comfortable and I'm not comfortable with you just being like, well, I guess we could just let her cry until she's asleep. There's too many other things that we could help to get in place to support her to have more success, if that makes sense.
I will book a call.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I can't give you more right there, but yeah, there's lots of questions. So, okay. All right. Thank you. Does the room need to be pitch dark, or is it a soft ambient light? Okay. I would go, I don't know, Cece, if you saw my darkness scale that I had on one of the previous slides, but let's see, here it is, bedroom darkness. If you can hit a 9 or a 10, I would. The darker, the better. So if you're going to go in during the night and change a diaper or offer a feed, then I recommend turning on a very, very low light and going with the orange, yellow hues, because we know blue light is very disruptive to them. We don't want our cell phones with us. We don't want TVs on. We don't want any kind of blue light, because that's cortisol producing. It starts that waking process. So we want to keep a nice dark space. If you need a little bit of light to be able to see if you're going in, then I recommend doing that, but otherwise pitch black. My baby is incredibly gassy and fussy every evening, and because of this, she won't sleep unless she's in my arms. Any tips if baby isn't chill, despite being fed, clean, not overtired, etc. at bedtime? In our apartment, it's not conducive to blackout blinds. Is there a safe option to just make the crib dark? I've seen sheets that go over the crib. Yes, they're definitely unsafe. So Allison, would you mind telling me how old your baby is? Can you unmute?
Hi, she's 10 weeks.
Oh, 10 weeks.
Yeah,
congratulations, so little. Good. Are you doing those good 75 minutes of awake period time, or is she doing longer or shorter?
Depends throughout the day. She sleeps pretty good in general, but we don't have any issues with her sleeping per se, but she only sleeps in my arms.
Okay, yeah. Well,
Timing is good, but location isn't.
Yeah, you know how I feel about that. I mean, 10 weeks, they're going to be doing a lot of held naps, and that's okay. But we know that in the next 4 weeks, right, we're really moving to the possibility of independent sleep. So it's kind of like we could kind of rapid fire change that, or you could kind of get to 14, 16 weeks and then be like, uh-oh, I'm still holding my baby for every nap. Are you holding her all night long as well?
Yeah.
So that, I just have to say that scares me a little bit because of safety. Because it's who can possibly stay awake all night, right? And then we don't know what kind of a position she's in. So I think it would be much better to start practicing with, even though she might be gassy or fussy, we don't know. She could be gassy or fussy, and that would be my bet actually, because she's tired, right? She's overtired. So she's having trouble getting into that sleep process. I would say in terms of the blackout blinds, there are very temporary things that you can do to black out that space. Those ones from Home Depot, they're safe and they just stick right up inside or on the outside of the window frame. You can cut them to the size of the window. That's where I would start, right? And you can just kind of tape them. You could do black plastic trash bags with some painter's tape, something that's removable that isn't going to create damage, but I would never put anything over the crib. I would never use any of those. I mean, there is a thing called a slumber pod that people use sometimes when they travel around a pack and play, and you can put the baby monitor kind of inside that. So, those are sometimes okay. But at this point, I would just say, I would stay away from any kind of a blanket or a sheet or anything over the crib for sure. And then what I would do is I would start practicing with some independent sleep. I know she's going to fuss a little bit, but at 10 weeks, that's okay. 2 minutes of fussing, 1 minute of voice, 1 minute of hand touch. If you need to, you can pick her up 30 seconds, get her a little bit calm, put her back down, start the cycle again. Don't be the thing that gets her to sleep, but be there to offer comfort, if that makes sense. Does that make sense as a distinction?
Yeah, I guess the main issue with her fussiness is she has a pretty weird bowel.
Okay.
she just she like poops every like once a week. So she
Okay.
really actually is gassy, and it seems to
Oh.
escalate in the evenings. And so she can't fall asleep on her own in the evenings. Is there a way to start it differently until her body kind of catches up and
Yeah, I mean,
processes
I would
things
say,
better?
are you talking to your providers about this?
Yeah, we have our own probiotic drops. It just seems to be that she's got to figure out her body, and she's not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, those BMs, they get in the way because sometimes
Yeah.
we see nighttime poopers and then it's like, oh, we've got babies that are sleeping really well and then they're like pooping and then they have diaper rash, we try to do our best because usually then it's at solid. We've got solids involved, but I I think like there's just this is a hard one, right? To work with her discomfort. Oh, Dana, good, you're here. What do
Well,
you
I don't know if you already come to Partners in Pediatrics or you have another provider, but there might be some other things to do besides. That does still seem for a 10 weeks old, well, could be normal, but if she's uncomfortable, we might be able to help you more with the digestive tract side of things, I think, a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, Allison, I'm not to put you on the spot, but do you go to PIP?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. So I think that they've offered some good suggestions, I think also for some homeopathic, there are some different homeopathic things that we could work with, but also, yeah, I would for sure just keep investigating that because I agree it's, but this happens, right? Parents have like different kinds of health situations and they sometimes make different choices because of that. And you might be in kind of a tough situation, but then as soon as she does start to regulate and you feel like you can get her into a safer sleep space, I would start working with that. I mean, Dana, what are your thoughts on holding her for nighttime sleep?
I'm in a recliner. There's no place for her to roll. I'm not rolling on top of her or anything. We're not in a bed. Just FYI.
We still would try.
Oh yeah, I would like her in the crib too. It's
differently
just
if you can. I have had one infant roll off on, and so I'll never forget that one in my head. And I just know that it's so hard to you need sleep too, I guess. I think that would
Yes.
be really hard over a longer period of time. We've all had that night or a couple nights, especially if they're sick, where we've held them. But yeah, for a long term, that's just a lot to ask for any adult to get through that overnight, and not get so tired too. So yeah, please, you can call me if you want. I'm working on Wednesday, or text me. I don't know who you see at our office, but we'd love to chat with you a little more too.
For
Okay.
sure. For sure. Allison, stay on it because I know you're going to get there. Just, and if you do need some support on the sleep end at some point, just book a call and, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Would it be okay to start with like the first nap of the day is one that we try and get her down on or something? Because that's that first sleep of the night is so hard because that's her gassiest time of the day.
I mean, you can definitely practice with naps. I think you're typically going to see a little bit more success at night just because of the things that I've said, like the melatonin and the sleep pressure. But if what time are you starting the bedtime?
We usually give her a bath around 7 and start trying to get her down then.
Yeah. And I would say like also really watch that sleep period. So making sure that it's only been 75 minutes from the time that she last woke up. Because if she's overtired, that's just like adding insult to injury. So you could definitely practice with a nap. No reason not to, right? You're also going to be a little bit more of your best self, and you're going to be able to bring more of you to a daytime situation than you are tonight, right? By the end of the day, we're just tired and we're frustrated. And so, yeah, I would do that. But honestly, if you decide you need some help down the road, keep my number.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Sure. Heather, with the dark room, this is a great question. What if the infant goes to daycare when they do not black out or darken the room? Okay, here you guys go. This is totally amazing. I work with tons of families who are in daycare, who are in different sleep situations during the week. They just figure it out, right? Our kids are really pretty darn good at compartmentalizing. I mean, we will often see kids that can sleep beautifully at daycare, and then they sleep terribly when they're at home. But guess why? Because when they get home, their parents are assisting them to sleep. At daycare, they don't have the luxury of doing that, right? So babies just learn like, oh, no one's going to rock me to sleep. Like I'm going to get there on my own, right? And then they get home and they're like, but mom's going to rock me till I'm asleep. So I would say I would still do a dark room when you're home. I would still do a sleep sanctuary when you're home. And then at daycare, I will always send like a cheat sheet in terms of timing and things that I request them to do. But we can't always guarantee what they're going to do. So great question there, Heather. Is there a way to get the recording of this meeting? I missed some of it due to getting the baby to bed. Nellie, I'm going to try to post it. Let me think of where I'm going to post it, because sometimes with Zoom, it's hard to keep them for a long time, but I believe that Partners in Pediatrics will send it out to people who signed up, or we can send, like, because I have the sign up through Eventbrite. I'm hoping that I can send you an email tomorrow with the recording in it. So hopefully you'll have it there. And if not, you can just email me privately. I'm going to put my email in the chat. Well, it's just Sara, SARA, @sleeperteachers.com. Feel free to email me anytime. My phone number is 303-551-1700 if you want to text me. And I'm happy to answer questions, but I think you'll get the email with the recording afterwards. So that is that. Hold on, let me just put this in. I can't really multitask. And let's see. Oh, okay, hold on. The next one. Oh boy, we have lots of questions. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my gosh, we have so many questions. We're never gonna get through them all. We shouldn't have talked for so long. The next question is sleeping in a DockATot okay for a 5-month-old? No, I hate to tell you, but it's really not. They're just not safe. I would get to a flat surface on your back. I mean, that's what I have to say. It's what AAP recommends, and I just don't think it's ever worth taking a chance. So I would do the work to get them in a stationary flat sleep space, and I'm happy to help you with that if that's something you need help with. When you recommend practicing putting the baby down fully awake, can you elaborate? Going through the full routine, putting them down awake and padding, staying in the room. Thank you. Yeah, so we want to remove the padding. So, or the rocking or the holding. So it's like you've let's say for the bedtime routine, you've fed your baby, you've kept them wide awake during the feed. We don't want them to snooze. A little snooze is enough to take off the sleep pressure, and then they're going to have a hard time going down. We get them into the sleep sack or the swaddle, depending on how old they are. And then we've done our bedtime routine, wide awake on their back into the crib or bassinet. And then we're going to just stand back. I would sit in a chair away from the crib so they're not close enough to touch you. I would sit in the dark and I would literally wait. I would wait 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever you can tolerate. And then I would go to them. I would use your voice for a couple of minutes. I would use some touch for a minute. You can offer a little bit of comfort, but you don't want to be the thing that gets them to sleep. And then I would go back to the chair and I would wait, and I would just continue that process until they're asleep. I mean, there's really no middle ground, right? If we're assisting them until they're asleep, then they're staying dependent on us. And but again, we've talked a lot about age and when that's appropriate to do that with them. A little more of that, like 4 months and on. We are in a transition swaddle. Love to dream with zip off arms where baby wakes herself and cries constantly until you help steady her arms. I mean, it depends on how old they are. BJ, is this, can you tell me how old your baby is?
Yeah, she's 6 months.
Oh, she's 6 months. Yep, she's definitely ready. So I would say you just kind of gotta let her get through it. If you keep going in and holding her arms or patting her or kind of giving her that assistance, she's just going to remain dependent. It's going to continue to be a habit. It's going to get stronger and stronger, and then you're going to have kind of a bigger issue on your hands. So I really wouldn't intervene. It's just like when we have babies who are ready to flip themselves over. They have strong necks. They can lift their heads up. They can go back to front to back. When they flip over on their belly and they're kind of pissed off about it and they're like, ah, and then a parent goes in and flips them right to their back, even though we know they're safe, then the baby's going to keep doing that because they know that it's going to get that engagement. It's not because they're malicious or anything like that. They're just smart. And once they experience something, that nervous system just wants to experience it again and again. So I would say if your baby is stuck, of course, please go in, get them back to a safe position. But if you don't like the position your baby's in, or if their hand's out of the rails or their foot's out and you're like, it must be uncomfortable, I would not go in and adjust them because then you're going to be doing that all night long. So yeah, I would say for this, I would just kind of get through it.
Okay, well, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. There are some, and Love to Dream might do this, I'm not sure, but there are some sleep sacks where there's actually still like a thing that can swaddle around the torso so that they still feel a little bit snug. And so I know Halo has one. And sometimes babies like that, but the arms are still free. 9-month-old baby, pretty good nighttime sleeper. However, she started having trouble with naps. They tend to only be 30 minutes. Any ideas on what to do? So Maggie, I would ask, is your 9-month-old, even though they have a pretty good nighttime sleep, are you helping her get to sleep at night?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Like she can put herself back to sleep in the middle of the night if she wakes up for the most part. So, but yeah, just the crying when I put her down, I'm not good at handling that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, who is, right? I rarely meet anybody who's like, I'm so good at the crying. Every once in a while, someone's like, I don't need, it's fine. Yeah, that's where I would start. And if you need some help on that, I would just book a call because it's, what's happening when she's waking at that 30-minute mark, 30, 40 minutes on those naps is she's not connecting her sleep cycles. And the only way that they really do connect those sleep cycles is if they've learned to go to sleep on their own in the first place, and then they know how to get themselves back down for that longer period. So when I'm working with a family, night times tend to progress really quickly. Naps sometimes take longer, right? Because it's light out, it's daytime, right? And but I would say that the first place that I would look is in working on those independent sleep skills at night.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sure. Sometimes a baby is awake for a couple of hours and is overstimulated, overtired. What can I do to help them settle down? Cece, is this like during the day or at night?
During the day.
During the day. How old?
3 weeks.
Oh, 3 weeks, of course. I would say a couple of hours is way too long. So are you putting your baby down about every 45 minutes and trying to, is it a boy or do you have a boy or a girl?
It's a boy.
And are you giving him an opportunity to try to get some sleep, whether you're holding him or in the stroller or in the car about every 45 minutes of awake time?
He's either in my arms or I'll put him down. But he's just really wide awake, and it's happened a couple of times where he stayed awake to his next feeding time.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. So I would say like if you can find kind of your like best emergency nap situation, usually kids are going to show you like the thing that they do best, like whether they like motion or whether they like to be held or, you know, I mean, I would say when they're so little like that, you know, you kind of just do whatever works, right? You know, that's hard once they're overstimulated and overtired. You have to just keep working to try to get them down, right? Because the only way to really solve overtired is to get sleep, right? So I would say as much as you can set the timer when he wakes up from his last time he slept in any form, even if it was a 5-minute nap, set the timer and just know that 45 minutes later, he's going to be back in that swaddle. He's going to be back in an opportunity to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And just kind of try to commit to that. But then, right, pretty soon here, right, in a few weeks, you're going to be lengthening that, but you're right at the beginning. So congratulations. I would definitely read that Understanding Newborn Sleep blog that's on the website.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sure. Any advice? And guys, I'm so sorry. I'm going to probably have to stop in a few minutes. If you have a separate question that is not getting answered tonight, feel free to email me and I will try to answer it. But I'll go for about 5 more minutes. Any advice for focusing on a baby's sleep when you have a toddler too? Oh, Sonia, just grin and bear it, right? This is tough. So we end up doing all sorts of weird things with our babies because we have to take care of our other children, right? I mean, so I would say that as often as you can, if you can try to time your baby's sleep for when you're going to be in the car, when you're going to be going on a walk, when you're going to be doing things that we know that they're probably prone to fall asleep anyway, if you can kind of time those activities to be when you would naturally be needing a nap, I would do that. You know, Sonia, are you solo with the 2 kids?
Hi. Mondays and Fridays I'm solo with the 2. 3 days a week they're both at daycare.
Okay.
And then weekends there's my husband and I.
Okay, and how old is your baby?
He is 5 months, and then my toddler will be 3 in June.
Okay, okay. And is your toddler still napping?
She takes an afternoon nap.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I mean, it's just one of those things where you have to just kind of juggle, right? But I would say if you can time your 5-month-old's at least middle nap to be at the same time as your toddlers, I would kind of try to work that schedule that way. You know, at 5 months of age, you could probably do a 2 to 2.5 hours of awake time. So I would kind of try to time it that way, but you know, I hate to say it, but we sometimes have the electronic babysitter, you know, just while we're kind of working on getting them down for a nap. So if your toddler can be in a safe sleep space and you can go and put your baby down for a nap and then leave the room and give them 5-10 minutes to work on it and then go back in for a minute and come back out with knowing that your toddler is in a safe space. I would say it's more of that. You're not going to be able to stay in the room and work on it when you're solo.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'll do 2 more questions. If my baby takes 3 longer naps during the day, 1.5 to 2.5 hours, should I be waking him up earlier? Yes. Well, Nellie, wait, how old is your baby?
3 months.
3 months. So, you know, we really don't want to go for more than, I mean, absolutely more than 4 hours of total daytime sleep. So yes, I would be capping the naps. I would probably do an 1.5 hour first nap, 1.5 hour second nap, and then I would do like a, you know, 30-40 minute cat nap for that last nap of the day. Yeah, because that could really start to affect your nighttime sleep. I love that your baby loves to sleep during the day, though. That's very good. Does your baby love to sleep at night?
Yeah, he's getting better.
Okay, Good, good. That's terrific. So, yep, I would just continue riding that wave and make sure you kind of balance that out a little bit.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Sure, sure. And then here I'm going to do one more, and then the rest of these sweet questions, darn it, we'll have to go. So, okay. There's a lot of need, right? I mean, can you believe 60 people signed up to be here tonight? That's a record. So, you know, don't hesitate to reach out. It's terrible to be tired all the time. Our little one started pulling himself up in the crib at 7.5 months. We're now starting month 9, and he still does this in the middle of the night and will stay standing and cry until we go in, hug him, and go back to sleep. How do we teach him to climb back down in his crib and return to sleep? Well, Selena, you're not going to teach him by going in, because what that's going to do is that's going to reinforce the habit, and he's going to expect you to keep coming, right? So usually what we see with standing is that he's going to stand and he's going to cry and he's going to be mad, and then he's going to start to fall asleep, and he's going to probably still be standing. So if you have a video monitor and you see that he's doing that, when he gets kind of drowsy and he starts to go down, you can quietly go in and try to assist him down, or you can wait until he kind of falls asleep. And then if he's still standing, we have had kids that have stood up even all night and sleeping it's unbelievable to me. Only one that we saw do that all night. But once he's asleep, you can go and just gently lay him down and get the heck out of there, right? So we want to decrease your involvement. Okay, see, you're unmuted. What are you going to tell me?
Yeah, he'll stand and he'll outweight us. I mean, I think our longest we've gone is 45 minutes, but he gets to hysterics. And then he's so tired that then he starts knocking his head on the railing. And so at that point, we're like,
I know,
going to pick him up, because, you know, by the morning he'll probably be beat up by his own crib, because he's not, he just refuses, like locks the legs at, like, it's, I guess you're right. It's heartbreaking for us, and we're just gonna have to let him do
I
it.
hate to say it, and I'm not like, I don't want to encourage you to have a head banging child, but it happens. He will not be the first, and he will not be the last. Like they will do all kinds of crazy behavior once they learn that it gets you to come. I have seen kids who will bang and bang and bang their head, even sometimes they'll be bleeding a little bit, because they know that it will get mom or dad to come. And we don't want to get to that stage. We don't want to get all the way to the point where he's willing to kind of do anything to get you there, because we also don't want him to climb. And oftentimes once they figured out that like they can get out of the crib. Oh, this is the other thing I'll say, just kind of like as a closing item. I really recommend sleep sacks as soon as you get out of the swaddle. Just a basic old Halo, anything simple. It doesn't have to be expensive. I wouldn't go with a nested bean. The weighted sleep sack doesn't do anything. It's just a gimmick. And, you know, get them in that sleep sack, and then, you know, keep it on them all the way until age 3 when they transition out of the crib, because it's going to decrease their ability and their desire, you know, their kind of like success in climbing out of the crib. So if they get to the point where they can unzip it themselves, they turn it around backwards, make it so that they can't as easily unzip themselves. But yeah, Selena, I'm sorry, but that's just what I would say. Like, yeah, I would let them get through it before I'd let it become a much bigger habit.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna call it quits because we're almost 15 minutes over. It's been so awesome having you here. Thank you. And again, please feel free to email me, text me, whatever, if you have some questions that didn't get answered, and obviously book a call if you need one.
Sarah, if you don't mind, we want to say a big thank you to you too at Partners in Pediatrics. We love you. You guys, she's wonderful. She's helped tons of our families. So if you do need anything sleep-wise, obviously we're here, but she is the guru. So if you need anything, please do call. And certainly we're here too. But thank you, Sarah. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. You guys, happy to be here. I'll be here for the next couple nights for our people with different ages. So I might see some of you again tomorrow. Okay. Sleep well, everyone. I'm going to turn it off now. Thanks so much. Let's see here if I can stop the share. And then if I can stop the